Okay, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Executive Policy Committee meeting on Tuesday, October 21st, 2025 to order. I'll be chairing the meeting today. Mr. Mayor is remote, and I'll start with our land acknowledgement. I'd like to acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. I'm Councillor Lukes from the Waverley West Ward, and I'd like to welcome my councillors Barati, Duncan, Santos, and Edie, and the Mayor Remote, the CAO, our head clerk here, members in the gallery, which there's quite a few, and anyone watching online. Now, Councillor Barati, do you have a motion for the minutes of the last meeting?
Actually, first I'd like to move that in accordance with Section 919 of the Procedure Bylaw, His Worship Mayor Gillingham be authorized to participate remotely.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
I'd now like to move adoption of the minutes from September 16.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
And finally, I'd like to move suspension of the rules for the Governance Committee report dated October 16, 2025.
Okay, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, now I think what we'll do is we'll start with delegations. Madam Clerk, if you'd like to announce the delegations.
Sure. Our first delegation is Rochelle Squires, President and CEO of Centre Venture Development Corporation, to be heard in support of Pilot Downtown Heritage Residential Conversion Grants, Report 2. And Rochelle is joining us in person.
Hello and good morning, Your Worship and members of Council and Administration. It is an honour to be here this morning to provide comments and champion a proposed new Heritage Residential Conversion Grant Program to be administered by Centre Venture in partnership with the City of Winnipeg. As you are aware, heritage preservation has been the core mandate of Centre Venture for the past 25 years. During that time, we've directly supported the redevelopment of 94 heritage buildings, resulting in over $431 million in capital investment and the creation of 2,855 residential housing units. Today, we are proposing the launch of a new pilot program aimed at breathing new life into vacant, derelict, or underutilized heritage buildings in the downtown. This program would be initiated with a $2 million grant from the City of Winnipeg, using unspent Housing Accelerator funds from the first tranche. Centre Venture would match this contribution with an additional $2 million from the Gail Parvin Hammerquist Fund, a fund specifically dedicated to designated heritage resources in the downtown. The new Heritage Residential Conversion Program has the potential to support the redevelopment of up to 4 heritage buildings, creating approximately 150 new residential units. This program will follow a timeline aligned with the Phase 1 requirements. We are targeting projects that can demonstrate a quick turnaround and secure building permits by November 1st, 2026, in line with the agreement. To that end, we anticipate communicating program details to prospective developers and qualified downtown building owners over the coming weeks. The intake period would open in November, close in January, followed by a 2-week adjudication process. Successful applicants would be announced at the end of January. The program will offer up to $25,000 per residential unit, and our goal is to revitalize at least 4 downtown heritage buildings. As you know, there are 215 heritage buildings in the downtown area, including a remarkable collection of turn-of-the-century warehouses, banks, and boutique properties, many distinguished by their iconic terracotta facades. We also know that more than 15% of these designated heritage buildings are currently vacant or underutilized. This pilot is intended to be the first step in establishing a long-term program, one that acts as a catalyst for new life, vibrancy, and residential density in these historically significant properties. Our goal is simple: to transform these historic buildings, each one telling an important part of our city's story, into vibrant, lived-in communities. This program, which can be stacked with other eligible government grants, will provide the critical financial incentives needed to overcome the high costs and complexities of heritage building conversions. Thank you for your time and for your consideration of this important opportunity to support the continued revitalization of our downtown through heritage preservation. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay, Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Lukes, and thank you very much for appearing today. I just wanted to say that we appreciate the work that's being done and that we can truly feel some revitalization coming to the downtown, and I think that this will be an excellent step in that direction. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I have a question. So you're estimating $25,000 per door, and out of the approximately $4 million, you're figuring 150 units. So, I mean, I guess you're looking at projects or potential developers who've got projects already on the go, or like for $4 million, 150 units, that's a deal, right? Like compared to what we're seeming to be investing in other projects, but like just give me a better idea on how you see that unfolding.
It's certainly an aggressive target and one that we're aiming to achieve by way of communicating to many of the building owners that are currently sitting on heritage buildings that are ready for conversion or could easily adapt to a conversion. We know that there's some heritage buildings that are on MLS right now, for example, that could be swiftly moved if the right developer became aware and was able to find the incentives to make the project work. And so the timelines are aggressive, the targets are aggressive, but we certainly think that there are property owners and there are developers that are ready to meet this challenge.
Okay. Okay, any other questions from our delegation? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, next.
Our next delegation is Chris Lawrence, Manitoba Heavy Construction Association, to be heard in support of Route 90 improvements, Taylor Avenue to Ness Avenue, value for money study findings and next steps. Item 2 of the report of the Standing Policy Committee on Public Works.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad you're making the presentation in Ottawa, that you are members of EPC. Mr. Dunford, this is my first opportunity to appear with you ensconced in your new role. Welcome. I'm pleased to appear this morning on behalf of the MHCA in support of item number 2, which emerges from the report of the Standing Policy Committee on Public Works related to Route 90 improvements. And at the outset, I wish to compliment both Jim Berezowski, Director of Public Works, and Andrew Condon, Manager of Engineering Public Works, for a very thorough report. We submitted a letter in support to SPC Public Works on October 7. I hope you've had an opportunity to review it. I won't repeat its contents, but rather ask you to continue thinking big and thinking big picture regarding to improvements required in the Route 90 project, and to continue looking at the long-term vision for the city's growth and its prosperity. And without growth, there is no prosperity. I want to remind this council that you have already prioritized this project on more than once in this term alone. The report today, frankly, reflects that policy direction, the investment direction, which merits continued and consistent approach, and therefore your and Council's support of the report and its recommendations. At the beginning of your term, Council unanimously identified improvements to the Route 90 project, Ness to Taylor, as a priority for a growing and strong economy through the Council's Strategic Priorities Action Plan. That document was developed, refined, and supported by every member of this council. In addition, all but one member of council voted to support adoption of the Transportation Master Plan, which more than once mentions the importance of strategic roads networks to the movements of goods, services, and product to and from market, and that clearly includes Route 90. The TMP includes Route 90 specifically as one road network investment that requires improvement short-term 24 to 33. As for the capital cost, the argument that needs to be made is that Manitoba and Ottawa have a major significant responsibility to support the full capital funding for this project. Manitoba and Ottawa are the immediate and full life cycle beneficiaries of this investment, which serves to augment existing and growing trade activities of our trade-based economy, whether local, provincial, or national. It generates all manner of taxes, levies, and related revenues to the two senior levels of government. The only noise, if you will, about the project capital investment should be the level of federal provincial contribution, not whether or not you proceed with it. We submit that the Council and public should loudly pursue Ottawa and Manitoba to each contribute at least 40% of the full capital cost of this project, as enhancement of this key trade corridor benefits our province and country immediately and immensely. Municipal governments should, as a matter of equitable capital investment sharing practice, bear a lower proportion of the initial capital investment as they, in this case the City of Winnipeg, then bears the full associated life cycle maintenance costs. The two senior levels of government have frankly escaped life cycle costs, only funding 30% of defined limited capital cost sharing while reaping the full life cycle benefits. And as to revenue generation, and the argument applies to your operating and capital budgets, we repeat the call to the Mayor and Council to create, within the office of the CAO, a Deputy CAO Economic Development position, reporting through the CAO to the Mayor and Chair of the SPC of Finance and Economic Development. This position, properly authorized and resourced, should champion internally and externally sustainable and diversified economic growth strategies, policies, practices, and investments that support a sustained and diversified growing economy in Winnipeg and, by extension, the capital region. It is important for Winnipeg to act with Manitoba and the capital region as economic growth partners, vesting and investing in growth, expanding the size of the economy, and therefore the tax base, and concurrently then making the legitimate public case for a new fiscal deal with Manitoba and, by extension, Ottawa. Mr. Dunford, I think you've heard this before. Councillors, this is an opportunity to lead. We ask you to seize it. We are quite ready, willing, and able to assist you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I see Mr. Mayor has a question, and then we'll go to Councillor Eady. So, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, Mr. Lorenz, for your presentation. There's no other way to ask this question, so I'll ask it as an are you aware? Are you aware that Minister Gregor Robinson, the Federal Minister of Housing and Infrastructure, was in the City of Winnipeg last week, and I did meet with him and raised a few projects, Route 90 being one of the primary projects that we need federal assistance for, because as I've said to Premier Canoe in my regular meetings with him, Route 90 is a primary trade route in the City of Winnipeg that is vital not only to the city's economy, but to the economy of the capital region. So are you aware that I have raised this project and, of course, the North End plant as well as primary infrastructure projects, key infrastructure projects that are to the benefit and the interest of both the federal and provincial governments?
Mr. Mayor, I thank you for that. I would like to add that our association at the national level has persuaded with cohort national organizations, the Premier's Council of the Federation, at its July 2023 meetings in Winnipeg, to adopt unanimously the principles of a Canada Trade Infrastructure Plan that our association was instrumental in writing and championing at the national level. CTIP calls upon the federal government to launch a sustained and sustainable national trade gateway and corridor investment strategy to repurpose and re-engage and re-emerge for Canada a reputation as a reliable global trade partner. Projects that would be funded through the CTIP program include Route 90, Chief Peguis, and other provincial and municipal investments that support our trade-based economy. In November 17 to 19, we will be in Ottawa as part of the Canadian Construction Association Hill Days, meeting with ministers, MPs, deputy ministers, policy writers, and amongst the topics is the necessity of a federal Canada Trade Infrastructure Plan, and there will be explicit reference to Route 90, Chief Peguis, and other like Manitoba projects that support trade.
Okay. Councillor Eady?
Lawrence, for all your big project advocacy through your association as well as at the other levels. I just want to, so right now, a lot of that trade that's moving to markets or whatever, a lot of it, if it's coming or moving through Centerport North, they're using the perimeter. Do you know anything about whether or not the province is going to put back on the table the St. Norbert bypass, which would direct traffic from the Pembina Highway corridor there over to Kenaston and Route 90 all the way up to the northwest of Winnipeg?
Madam Chair, through you to Councillor Eady, the Centerport footprint, 20,000 acres, larger than the size of the island of Manhattan, is an economic gem for Winnipeg, the capital region, and the country. Because of the investments in infrastructure in the RM of Rosser, because of the investment of the three levels of government in Centerport Canada Way, there has been in excess of $1.5 billion of unincented private sector investment in Centerport Canada North. The City of Winnipeg is in process of extending sewer and water into Centerport South, which is part of the Centerport footprint. It's expected ultimately to leverage in excess of $1 billion of private sector unincented investment in trade-related activities. Centerport Canada Way has already outstripped preliminary expectations for volumes of traffic. The Perimeter Highway, I don't know how often any of you travel it. It is incredible the level of traffic that particular route already bears. We are in discussions with senior elected and non-elected members of the provincial government, encouraging Manitoba to frankly do what the City of Winnipeg is already doing, and that is to make public and release for public consumption and consideration a report that identifies what the existing condition of Manitoba's transportation system is like, what it is that is required to bring that system to a good condition, what are the investments that are required in order to support growth and trade, and that would include the St. Norbert bypass, it would include Headingley, it would include improvements to the Trans-Canada, including the twinning of the PTH east of Falcon Lake. I am a member of the Blue Ribbon panel that is actually meeting this afternoon. Its report, preliminary report, and recommendations are before the Minister for consideration, and the mandate of that particular Blue Ribbon panel is to assist the province in identifying criteria that would guide its making big picture investment decisions. How the province then chooses to then prioritize is a decision that the province makes. Our role and our repeated message to the province is that it must make those decisions.
Okay. Any other questions? All right.
Mr. Lawrence?
I learned from the best, Councillor.
So, Mr. Lawrence, I think sometimes, and I think a lot of us here sometimes fall into the realm of just thinking the city, right? We're not thinking maybe bigger national picture. I know when Kenaston was built through the Waverly West community, it was built as a trade corridor. It received federal funding as a trade corridor. A good question, Councillor Eady, about the St. Norbert bypass. We're all waiting for that because for a lot of reasons, we're waiting for that. From a big picture perspective, when you are lobbying, doing your lobbying to Ottawa and the province, just maybe remind us from the big picture how important this is.
Madam Chair, a very good question. Imagine where we might be as a community, as a capital region, as a province, if we didn't have the foresight of the fathers of an earlier version of the City of Winnipeg, a number of municipalities, it wasn't just the City of Winnipeg, that made the investment decision to build the aqueduct. where would we be today? Where would we be sourcing our water? Where would we be in terms of recreation if our forefathers at the City of Winnipeg had not assigned lands which today house that beautiful Assiniboine Park? Where would we source lands today for the purposes of recreation, or Kildonan Park? Where would our community today be were it not for Premier Duff Roblin's courage in the early mid-60s to say we need a floodway that bypasses significant water flows as a result of floods in the spring? We would be billions of dollars behind the hole in terms of damages to the City of Winnipeg. There are countless decisions that have been made by our forefathers upon which we benefit today as a community and as a province. And this is one of them. Imagine where we might have been had Council of the mid-70s accepted the report which at that particular time called upon the city to plan for freeways within the City of Winnipeg. We wouldn't be doing the kind of reactive investment, reactive planning, forced expropriation of lands for the purposes of enabling the movement of goods, products, and services to and from market, given that we are a trade-based economy. 65% of Canada's GDP is based on trade. 57% of Manitoba's economy is based on trade. Something approaching 70% of Manitoba's GDP is generated by Winnipeg and the immediate capital region. These are decisions that require long-term planning and long-term vision and commitment to those plans, commitment to those visions, and investments through budgets in order to allow those visions to see reality. This is one of those projects. This is not something that someone came up with overnight and said, hey, why don't we build a new highway through the middle of the City of Winnipeg? This is an existing asset that already carries 80,000 vehicles daily, that is a trade corridor and a trade gateway. Its investment allows further investment and expansion of residential development along the west side of Kenaston. This is not a make-work project. This is not coming to council and saying this is good for a little community of interest. This is a big picture investment that benefits Winnipeg, Manitoba, the capital region, and that's why we say Manitoba and Ottawa should invest at minimum 40% each in the capital cost.
So one more question here. I've been around a long time as an advocate and talked about Route 90 back in the day, and it's here now. The city has applied a couple times to the federal government for funding. I think now the world is different than it has been in the past, and the need for transportation and the economy. There's a lot of different dynamics now than, like, say, through the past applications where we didn't receive funding. What's your perspective on the fact that in the past we haven't received funding? What do you think makes it different now that might make us more eligible?
Well, there's a fellow who occupies the Oval Office south of the 49th who is incredibly disruptive to world order, who is disruptive to trade relations that have benefited by many decades between that country and ours. I do not recall in all of my years of engagement in public office and or service the unanimity with which all levels of government are speaking about the imperatives of ensuring, number one, that we tear down the walls within Canada to enable free trade within our own country, that we recognize that the nature of the relationship between Canada and the United States is finished. It will never return, sadly, to what it was pre the most recent election. But that also means that we need to understand that our reputation as a reliable global trading partner fell from 9th best in 2009 to 32nd best in 2019, behind Azerbaijan. We produce more than our economy can ever consume. We need to make sure that we trade east and west. We need to do whatever we can to secure as good a trade deal as we can with the United States, but we cannot hamper our economy with inefficient trade gateways and corridors. There was a study done by the Canadian Centre for Economic Analysis, CANCEA, that was undertaken, I believe, in 21 or 22. And of the industries polled that are involved in manufacturing and exporting, and depending on location within the country, anywhere between 30 and 50% of those polled said the reason we can't expand, because we don't have an efficient national trade gateway and corridor system. The last time we had something like that was the federal policy called the Framework on Trade Gateways and Corridors, and it was that policy upon which Centerport was built and upon which Centerport will continue gifting this region and province.
All right, Mr. Lawrence, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I wish you good meetings.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, our next delegation, please.
Our next two delegations are joining us via Zoom. So first we'll hear from Kevin Hunter, VP Philanthropy, Marketing and Government Relations for the YMCA YWCA, to be heard in support of EPC Report 17. And Kevin, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, you have 5 minutes.
Thanks very much. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, City Councilors. Thanks for giving me some time, myself and Winnipeg, a few minutes to speak today. My apologies. I had intended to be there in person, but I made the fatal mistake of bragging how much I haven't been sick in the last couple of years, and fate decided to take a turn. But and thank you for the team for shifting me over to Zoom this morning. So I'm here to speak to our request for City Council to endorse our application to the federal government's Green Municipal Fund. This is in support of the WISE Heart of the City Capital campaign and the redevelopment of the historic downtown YMYWCA. In many ways, this request actually goes back to 2022. Believe me, it won't take that long for me to kind of go through the details. Coming out of COVID, the Y was in a very tough spot, as I think the City of Winnipeg is well aware. Membership revenue had been decimated. The organization was looking at an operating deficit of approximately $2 million. Our board had the same conversation that Y associations were having across Canada. Despite the immense need, can we afford to maintain the downtown Y, or would it have to close? So a designated heritage building, the only recreation center for the downtown community, and would the then 110-year history of the downtown Y have to come to an end? But as other downtown Ys across the country were shuttered, our board, luckily, did the opposite, and they had a bold vision and made a bold decision to make that vision possible. Rather than simply try to weather the storm, they opted to enlist the community's help to reinvest in the downtown Y. So that led to the launch of our $18 million Heart of the City Capital campaign in June of last year to revitalize the community purpose of our downtown center. So expanded childcare, expanded newcomer and mental health services, new community classrooms, improved accessibility, and an indoor splash pad in the heart of Winnipeg's downtown. The need was clear, and the response, to be quite honest, has been unbelievable from the community. So the City of Winnipeg was the first to step to the plate, all puns intended, go Jays go, in the form of an operating grant to ensure youth activities were maintained. And that led to the creation of our Open Y program for youth aged 13 to 17, free access during periods throughout the week, also support for our Strong Kids program that offers fully subsidized, fully sponsored memberships for youth and families in need. So as for our capital campaign, in just 16 months, through the support of the province and our incredibly generous community, we are very proud to say that we've raised $10.1 million towards our $18 million goal, which is a very fast pace. But we understand that not all funding happens this quickly, and we continue to work with the federal government to secure their support as the final piece of this puzzle. To that end, we submitted our application to the Federal Green and Inclusive Community Building Fund. This is a separate fund. That was 1 year ago this month. We continue to solicit support from local MPs for our application, and we're planning to take our cause to Ottawa later this year. But we know we can't put all our eggs in the GICB basket, so that's what led us to the Green Municipal Fund. So although the Green Municipal Fund won't cover the full funding that we're seeking from the federal government, the Y can apply for a maximum of $5 million, with $1.25 million of that as a grant and $3.75 million as a loan, which we can then use as bridge financing to help get the project underway in 2026. So with the endorsement of council that we're seeking today, we are very confident that we'll be successful in our application. So to qualify, the fund requires that the project results in a minimum 30% reduction in GHG emissions. And through our previous GICB grant application, we have confirmed that our plans far exceed these minimum requirements, with an anticipated 50% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, a 37% increase in overall energy efficiency, and a reduction in energy consumption cost by $72,000 a year for the downtown Y. So, however, as per the fund guidelines, we must apply in partnership with the local municipality. So without council's endorsement, this opportunity for critical funding will close, and our ability to complete this project for the downtown community will unfortunately take a serious hit. So with all of this in mind, and on behalf of Y Winnipeg and the thousands of children and families who count on us each and every day, I do hope that you'll approve our motion and endorse our funding request through the Green Municipal Fund. Happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? No? I guess mine's more, did you know? Well, did you know? Congratulations on what you've raised so far. That's incredible.
Thank you very much.
That's momentum, right? That's huge momentum. I know many of us here traveled, Councillor Duncan and I for sure went to the YMCA facility in Calgary, to one of the newer ones, and understood what the Y does out in Calgary. You do incredible work here, and I can't see one single reason why we wouldn't endorse this. So congratulations on where you're at now. Good luck, and thank you. Oh, the mayor's got a question here. All right, so I'm just very happy about this news and think what you're doing is fantastic downtown. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and also thank you to you, Mr. Hunter. Are you aware? I think that we will absolutely be supporting this application by the YMCA, but just want to maybe take a moment to say, first of all, thank you to you and the entire team at the Y, Cordell, and everybody who does outstanding work. You know, I'm here in Ottawa today to talk about bail reform, but it's just not a single focus that we have as council. We're not just asking for tougher, penalties in the law. We see a healthy society from a holistic point of view. And in fact, the work that you do, we see, or I certainly see it as in essence, as part of crime prevention. If we can invest in young people and give them great places to be, good mentors, good positive peer, reinforcement, a place like the YMCA, is just, it fits that bill. It's one of the reasons that we put, as a council, we put into the budget this investment for you to enable you to create the open Y. And so, while I'm sitting here, I'm going to talk in a few moments to parliamentarians about we're changing the law to keep violent offenders off the street. That's not all we're doing. We're going upstream as well and making intentional investment in organizations that give youth an opportunity to be involved in recreation with good peers and good role models as well. And that's part of the key work that you're doing. So what you're doing right now is a bit of an extension of what I'm doing as well. And I just wanted you to be aware of that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may just comment briefly, I really appreciate your comments too, Councillor Lukes. One of the things that I personally, and I know as an organization, we are incredibly proud of is when we look at things and the challenges that the City of Winnipeg is looking at, we know that we can be a potential solution as an organization for those challenges. One of which is we constantly hear about the challenges that are facing youth in the City of Winnipeg, and what can we do with these youth? And our answer time and time again, without fail, is bring them to us. Every time, bring them to us. And I think that's a real strength of the Y, and partnering with the City of Winnipeg in this regard is certainly a strength.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. There's no more questions, so have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Chair, or Madam Clerk, next.
Okay, our last delegation is Steve West, to be heard in opposition to Report 2 of the Report of the Standing Policy Committee on Public Works. And Steve is joining us via Zoom. Hi, Steve, you can go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, Mayor Gillingham, and members of the Executive Policy Committee. I'm opposed to the recommendations. Thank you for the opportunity to tell you why. The original report provided a questionable estimate of benefits versus the cost of the project, and that picture has only worsened in the update that's before you. At the October 7th, 2025 meeting of the Standing Policy Committee on Public Works, written submissions by Mel Marginet and Cyril Lee succinctly and powerfully argued against the approval of this project. The benefit cost factor has fallen from 1.17 to 1.06. We're likely many months from you putting ceremonial shovels into the ground, yet the benefits have already fallen while the costs have risen dramatically. With time, with the complexities of major infrastructure project, contingencies, and inflation, it's not unreasonable to believe that the benefits will fall further. Hello, Kat. And I'm sure those around the table will recall the city auditor examining the Waverly West Arterial Roads project approved at $55 million, but which cost $70 million to complete. That kind of margin of error or overspending here will put your project over $1 billion. Just as important as the cost-benefit ratio and cost, the city has failed to address the concept of induced demand. In urbanist circles, there's a witticism to the effect of saying, "One more lane, dude, just one more lane, I promise." Even the initial report didn't project a lasting or even considerable impact on commute times. Will we be back here a couple of years after completion debating about just one more lane? As an aside, I suppose those engaged in construction and transportation, the issue of trees may be irrelevant to them. Your proposal will call for the killing of many, many mature, healthy trees that line Kenaston, capturing carbon dioxide while providing shade to people walking or waiting for buses and beauty to all who see them. I would argue, as many have, that the funds you're about to commit to this doubtful gamble would give a far greater return if diverted to the unfunded priorities councillors and residents actually want, and other unfunded projects, including the Arlington Bridge replacement. Deflecting to the possibility of rail relocation there is a ruse. The cost to expropriate, remediate, and relocate the yards would vastly overshadow the Kenaston estimate. And that's assuming CPKC would ever consent to its main line being detoured around the city, adding delays to its fast freight trains. A bridge will continue to be needed. In addition to Arlington, we also have the Lariz Bridge and the Harry Lazarenko Bridge on the horizon, both of which appear to be headed to the same fate of abandonment as Arlington, along with the people of the North End who deserve to be served by these three vital links. I acknowledge and understand that you, Mr. Mayor, are compelled to advance this project as it was a major plank in your election campaign. However, it could be argued that only 27% of voters endorsed your Kenaston plan. To obtain a stronger level of support for this project, I'd urge you to put the matter to a plebiscite. If that were to provide a mandate, then so be it. Nonetheless, people in the north part of the city would still be much more entitled to ask, "You've spent all these hundreds of millions in the south, Mr. Gillingham. What about us?" The funds you are considering for this project will commit our children, grandchildren, and many generations to pay for the building and maintenance of what many have labeled a boondoggle and a vanity project. Please stop, reconsider, and obtain input from citizens as your predecessor did with a much smaller infrastructure proposal opening Portage and Main to pedestrians. Thank you.
Okay, Steve, that was a lot of information. So I appreciate your perspective. Do we have any questions or comments from Steve or for Steve? No? I'm sure you know, Steve, that a great portion of this project is the bridge rehabilitation, right? The St. James Bridge rehabilitation. And of course, some of the waterworks that are required, the drainage, the land drainage. I'm not going to argue about this. I guess I really appreciate your comments. You're always giving me thoughtful input and comments. I see Mr. Mayor wants to say something, so, Mr. Mayor?
Through you, Madam Speaker, thank you very much, Steve, for your presentation. Just a couple of items. I'm wondering if you're aware on the concept of induced demand. Are you aware that right at that section of Route 90, we have a very exciting project, I'm sure you're aware of this, which will be the largest infill project in the city's history, which could and may accommodate up to 3,000 units of housing, plus 1 million square feet of commercial space. So the demand will increase no matter what happens with this project. If we don't put $1 into Route 90, or if we do the entire project, the demand will increase. The number of vehicles that will go on, that will be traveling that road is coming. It's coming inevitably. One of the options, are you aware that the design also calls for the kind of infrastructure investment that would better accommodate buses and would better accommodate active transportation pathways? And are you aware, I'll give you all the questions, and are you aware that there's only so many years of life left in the St. James bridges, and they need to be replaced or rehabilitated at the minimum? And as per the report, are you aware that if we just choose a rehabilitation of the bridges, that could mean up to 4 years of traffic delays, where traffic would be down to single lanes, which would push traffic into the residential areas, where people would try, instead of going down Route 90, they would try to cut through Tuxedo and River Heights residential streets. And so I could give a whole list of, are you awares? But this is a project that is really, really about the future of trade investment. It's about accommodating the induced demand, probably not the induced demand, the demand that is coming inevitably of more vehicles because of the exciting infill project that is now a Odanak and Canada Lands project. So, we need to make sure that we can accommodate the inevitable and exciting growth that is coming to our city.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for all that information. I am aware of all those points, and what I find when I'm on Kenaston or on Gordon crossing Kenaston, what I see is a lot of the majority of the traffic is single occupant vehicles, and to my mind, investment in transit, more frequent service, might induce many of those drivers to take transit instead of plugging up the road with single occupant vehicles, as well as a minor percentage of commuters would choose active transportation as well. Not as major a impact on the traffic flow as transit, perhaps. And as far as the bridge, yes, of course, all bridges need maintenance, as we've seen. And that's an important project to advance as well.
Okay. Councillor Reid?
You and I do agree on certainly on the importance of the investment in transit, and I think certainly this council, with our recent investments on of buses, the North Garage, and then of course the new transit network, which we are continuing to tweak. For sure, we agree that the investment in transit is necessary to try and encourage more people to choose transit and reduce the number of vehicles, that personal passenger vehicles.
Councillor Reid has a question.
Well, I'm going to make a comment, and it's open to comment from our delegation. So while it shouldn't necessarily be part of the projected $7.75 billion, there is the fact that land drainage will be separated from combined sewer usage. And would you not agree depending on how you think about funding it, we're talking about the top of the road and a bridge which is above the river. But part of the project is to have a major land drainage pipe so that only land drainage water goes into the river. Would you not agree that that is an important aspect to happen so that the ecology of the Assiniboine River is better and the environment as well?
I'd agree that that's an important priority to cover all over our city.
I had a question. You referred to the Lazarenko Bridge, which was totally renovated back around 2003, I believe it was. It's doing really well. It seems to be, it'll be coming on in 28, it'll be 25 years, which is what the estimate was, but I think it's going to last longer than that. Did you refer to the Lazarenko Bridge as being neglected?
Those bridges are, similar vintage, and it seems reasonable to expect that they will be end of life in the reasonably near future, as was Arlington.
Well, anyway, I kind of disagree. All our capital projects, the Arlington Bridge is important. It is currently, you know that it is funded to be removed, and that continual costing and design is occurring, and that actually happened before this report started, and this report is asking us to budget money for expropriation of land to widen Keniston and so on. Do you actually think that the federal, provincial governments are going to come up with like $5 or $6 billion to remove the CPKC yards out of the city of Winnipeg, maybe end the line? And additionally, just, if they don't need the main line coming through Winnipeg, don't you think that that's a perfect opportunity for an east-west LRT from the airport out to Transcona and jumping off points for transit, and that you do need an Arlington Bridge to go over top of an LRT that would run along there?
I do believe that an Arlington Bridge is required. I don't believe that relocation of the yards will ever happen, not at least in my lifetime. I'm not an expert in that area, of course, but I believe that project would be just too large a scale to be affordable. And as for the main line, I don't see a corporation changing its route just because the city wants it to.
Okay, anything else? We can wind up this conversation. Thanks very much, Mr. West. I appreciate your input. And thanks for the
Thank you very
updates
much.
you're always sending me. I appreciate that.
And good luck to you, Mr. Mayor, in Ottawa.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Now, I don't think we have any other delegations. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so now I think we'll get into reports. And we're going to start with report number 1. Okay. Pull this up here. Just give me a minute. All right. Monthly update on supportive housing, addiction, and social action indicators. Do we want to hear from the department on any of this? I'd like to. Okay.
Madam Chair, with me today is Lizzie Rappaport, manager of the Housing Accelerator Fund, and she'll speak to items 1 and 2.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Item 1 is our monthly housing report. So just updating EPC and the public on our progress towards approving housing units through development applications, development permits, and building permits, which is outlined on table 1 on page 1. So development applications, every month we see, about 100 to up to 1,000, depending on the time of year that jumps. So since last month, it was a couple hundred. Development permits follow a similar trajectory. This is actually this month up 1,000 units since last month. And then building permits, if we turn to page 2 in table 2, we lay out our total building permits by type as it's defined under our Housing Accelerator Fund agreement. So we are required to achieve 14,101 units by December 2026. So we're past the halfway mark towards that goal. We have a total of 8,746 building units through building permits. So we're 66% towards our December 2026 goal. This month, we are also at 103% for 2024 plus 2025. So by the end of this year, in December, we will submit our annual report to CMHC. If we include both last year and this year, we're essentially ahead of the game, and we still have a couple months left in the year. So things are looking good. We also have a rough count, which I've not included in the chart because it's not 100% accurate, but I believe we are at 891 affordable units. We have to actually do that math manually, so I just have to double check, so just reporting that verbally right now. We have the target of 1,354 affordable units by next December, so we are well on track towards that, so things are looking good.
Okay. All right. And any questions? Councillor Santos?
Just a quick question. Out of those 800 some affordable units, could you tell us how many of those are rent geared to income units? Do you have that rough number?
Not offhand, but I could get it for you. It includes rent geared to income and then affordable below market. So either the CMHC definition, which is below 80% median market rent, or at the provincial affordable housing rate. I think probably about half are at rent geared to income, but I'd have to double check.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so that is report 1. Could I have, Councillor Duncan, do you want to move that?
I'll move
Okay.
the report.
All right, he's moving the report. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. And then you're going to speak now to the pilot downtown heritage residential conversion grants? Okay.
Yeah, so this is an exciting new program. You heard from Rochelle Squires already this morning. We're excited to partner with Centre Venture. So we are proposing to council to reallocate $2 million from our half grants round 1. So when the city received our first installment of $30 million from the federal government, we launched $25 million worth of grants. We had one project that we approved that has actually withdrawn. They've decided not to go ahead. So that project was conditionally awarded $2 million, so that remains unspent. And we're recommending council to allocate that $2 million to Centre Venture, which, as Rochelle mentioned, Centre Venture will match with $2 million from their Gail Parvin Hammercrest Fund for a total of $4 million to essentially top up both of those pots to be able to deliver approximately 150 units of residential units downtown within heritage designated buildings. So what we're proposing in this report is first the approval of reallocating that $2 million to this initiative, and then to enter into an agreement with Centre Venture to administer the grant program and to delegate to our CAO to negotiate and approve that agreement. The report outlines our mutually agreed between the city and Centre Venture the parameters of the grant, so a maximum of $25,000 per residential unit. Buildings must be located downtown, vacant or underutilized, designated heritage projects. There's not a requirement for affordable units, but as we adjudicate projects with Centre Venture, both from the housing and heritage perspective, we'll add more points to deeper social impacts, affordability, as well as to buildings that have been vacant for longer periods of time. So this is intended to add additional incentives than both Centre Venture and the city currently have to encourage downtown development. So the Gail Parvin Hammercrest funds, as well as our existing TIF programs, they'll all be able to be stacked. The one challenge with TIF on some of these projects is because office and commercial projects are taxed at a higher rate, when you move from a conversion from office use to residential, the TIF is not really that much of an incentive because you don't create as much increasing taxes. So this is a way to fill that gap, and we're proposing it as a pilot to see how it goes over the next year.
Okay, Councillor Duncan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I want to thank you for your work yesterday at our hearing, a long day there, and you're back again today to speak to this, so thank you very much for that. Just on this item, number 2, are there any operating costs that could occur for the city? I know that we're saying that Centre Venture will administer, but any operating costs?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in the notes here, under our summary, it has 4 heritage buildings. Have those been identified already?
No, so as Rochelle mentioned this morning, after council approval, they would proceed to open intake for applications up until January. So it'll be open. There's not specific 4 buildings, but with the dollars and what they've been talking to developers and building owners about, that's what we think could be achieved.
Okay. So the 25,000 per unit, the department's telling us that this would incentivize developers to look at these heritage buildings. I know they're typically between 10 and 20,000 for new builds, so is 25 enough?
Yeah, I think with the matching of all the funds, Centre Venture has done an analysis on what that feasibility gap might be on a few projects. So we're comfortable that with this incentive, we'll be able to get at least 4 projects and about 150 units.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Eady.
Yeah, I just have a question, and pardon me, I'm just Gail Hammerquist Fund Downtown. The money that comes through that fund, how is it decided how much goes to Centre Venture for downtown? And I believe there's money available for heritage buildings outside of downtown, but nowhere near $2 million. Can you help me understand that?
I think I will have to get back to you on that question. I have to double check with our heritage planner. I believe it's between 10 and 20% remain with the city, and the rest goes to Centre Venture, but I'm not 100% confident in that response, but I can get that and then send you an email and let you know.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Sounds like a great idea. Anyway.
No, it's innovative, and it sounds like it's going to be very aggressive. Okay, so if there's no more questions, Councillor Duncan, do you want to make a motion? Yeah. Move motion to receive the report?
I'll move the public service recommendation on report number 2.
Okay, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. All right, report number 3, City of Winnipeg Rapid Housing Initiative, round 3, distribution of program contingency funds, Spence Neighborhood Association.
Madam Chair, with me today will be Rob Taylor, our Director of Assets and Project Management Office, who will introduce this one and answer any questions that council might have.
Okay.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I also have Emma Feinblatt here with me. She is the Housing Revitalization Coordinator as well. This is a very simple report there. This RHI funding is made up of provincial funding through Manitoba Housing and CMHC. The Spence Neighborhood Association, who've been very successful with the RHI round so far, is looking for an additional $43,000 to do some pre-development, to look for a new site for another development project. It'll be in the vicinity of their existing sites they've worked on so far. And once again, this is not city money. This is just allocating some of the contingency that's out there right now for the Spence Neighborhood Association.
And they have to come, sorry, are you done?
Yes.
Okay. Questions, Councillor Eady?
Where's the existing project that they did? under the Rapid Housing Initiative?
Thank you, Councillor. So there are two sites. One is on Langside and one is on Sherbrooke. They're developing 3 units of modular housing on each of those sites in the Spence neighborhood. And then this would be a third site within the Spence neighborhood that they would be looking to do some pre-development studies to do a similar type of development.
Okay, all right, thanks.
3 units?
The current Rapid Housing Initiative project has 3 units on each site, so 6 units total, and then they're looking to do a pre-development study for 3 or 4 more units on another site.
Okay. Okay, any questions? Any further questions? No? Okay, I have no more questions. Can I have a motion then, I guess? Councillor Duncan? All right. All in favor?
I'll move the public service recommendation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, number 4, annual report, communities fund expenditures.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will move the public service recommendation to receive as information.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
That's for 2024.
Number 5, application to the Federal Canada Public Transit Fund, baseline funding program for Winnipeg Transit.
Thank you. I'll move the public service recommendation.
Okay, no questions on this at all. This is really exciting. I think this is really exciting. We did a pre-election announcement, the mayor and I, and I think this is very good for the city. All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Number 6, business improvement zones, image routes, and neighborhood Main Street funding grant agreements.
Yes, Madam Chairperson. It's always good news to see that business improvement zones are getting grants to match funds that they're raising elsewhere to improve the look and feel for customers in their business improvement zone areas. Selkirk Avenue Biz has been one that's benefited, as well as the North End Biz from these grants. And so I'll move the recommendation of the public service.
Okay, yeah, I just want to thank all the biz zones. I was a member of a biz zone and on the board of a biz zone, and they do incredible work for the city. So I just want to thank everyone that's involved with the biz zone. So all in favor of Councillor Edie's motion?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Carried, approved. All right. Number 7, annual report of the City of Winnipeg Records Committee.
I'd like to move to receive this as information, Madam Chair.
Okay, receive as information from Councillor Barati. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Okay, item number 8, settlement of actions of Brian Anderson, Alan John Woodhouse, and Clarence Clifford Woodhouse from the Court of King's bench file. And it lists the file numbers. This is a settlement. So I don't think, I guess you're the speaker to this, if there's any questions?
Madam Chair, I'd like to call over Ashley Pledger, our Acting Director of Legal Services, as well as Tracy Graham,
Okay.
our Chief Financial Officer, to speak these items,
Okay.
or this item.
Okay, good morning.
Morning.
All right, do you just want to give a brief overview?
Sure. This report relates to 3 different claims that were filed in, 2 were filed in April 2024, and the 3rd was filed in February 2025. One being Alan Woodhouse, Clarence Woodhouse, and Brian Anderson. The plaintiffs and defendants being the Manitoba, Canada, and the city, participated in a judicially assisted dispute resolution process in July, and it resulted in a conditional settlement subject to council approval.
Any questions? So someone had asked me, oh, and the mayor will have, I think he wants to say something. Someone had asked me, this seems very quick, that a quick settlement, but my understanding is it went on for a long time prior to the arbitration. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there's an extensive process that happens when conviction is being reviewed. And so there's reference in the report to the process that took place. So the plaintiffs requested a review to the Criminal Conviction Review Group, which the Federal Minister of Justice approved. And then as a result of that review, it was referred back to the Manitoba court for a new trial. And earlier this year, one of the plaintiff that filed more recently was found not guilty. And the prior two plaintiffs the prior year. So as a result of them being determined to be factually innocent, they filed their claims thereafter.
And will there be settlements from the province and the federal government too, or?
So the recommendations relate to a payment of $7,000 by the City of Winnipeg as a global settlement, which includes contributions from the other defendants, yes.
Million, right?
Yes,
7 million?
that's
7
correct,
million?
7 million.
Okay, 7 million. And there will be other settlements paid out by the province and the federal government?
Yes, the $7 million is a contribution towards a global settlement with contributions from the other defendants being Canada and Manitoba, yes.
And when do those get announced, or when do we know about those?
Unfortunately, those are subject to settlement privilege, so we won't know about those.
So we won't know about it. Okay. Mr. Mayor, your questions?
Yes, thank you for this. Maybe just on that point, as Ms. Pledger has noted, I just want to take a moment to highlight again the difference between our processes at the City of Winnipeg and provincial and federal processes. The City of Winnipeg and municipal governance is so much more transparent than the processes that take place at the provincial and federal government. You know, it's just indicated, and I heard it on the news as well, is that how the provincial and federal governments come to their determination of their compensation and the amount that they will be contributing toward this. It's done. It feels like it's done in a black box. We don't hear about it. But here at the City of Winnipeg, we have a public meeting with a public report that members of the public can come and speak to in a very open and transparent way. And so I just highlight it again because sometimes, you know, people are like, oh, the City of Winnipeg is not transparent. Well, here we are with a very transparent process on this matter related to the settlement actions of these three individuals. So just I take this opportunity just to highlight that fact again. I guess one of my questions would be then, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but the reasons for or the shortcomings in the city, whether it's police processes or judicial, Crown processes, I guess, have the mistakes that were made in the past that led us to these wrongful convictions, you know, has the city, within police or others, have they addressed those? Have we fixed what was broken so that this doesn't happen again is, I guess, the basic way to ask the question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is a question that I don't necessarily have the answer for, but I can say that it's not the first wrongful conviction that's occurred in Manitoba, and more recently there was I'm not sure of the name of the organization, but it was it relates to Innocence Canada and the implementation of an organization to review these matters more closely, which is actually based in Winnipeg. So there are, I think, some systemic changes that have taken place, but I would also defer to the Winnipeg Police Service, who is more involved in matters of investigation and prosecution.
And that's fair. That may be a question for the police board to ask of the police service at their next meeting, but thank you for this. When we come to the point, Madam Chair, if there's no more speakers or no more questions, I would move concurrence with the public service recommendation when the time is right for that.
Okay, I think Councillor Eadie has a question.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand, and I, like the mayor, I appreciate that we're more, we'll know what the settlement is. And so it's my understanding, and you know, wow, how hard it must have been to be wrongly convicted and what they went through. But I'm just trying to understand the city's liability in these wrongful convictions. Would the Court of Queen's Bench be making decisions that there was inappropriate police procedure and stuff that resulted in our liability of $7 million for these three gentlemen who have lived a very difficult life as a result of what happened?
Thank you, Councillor Eady. The claims allege 5 different causes of action: negligent investigation, false arrest and false imprisonment, misfeasance in public office, conspiracy, and charter violations. The Court of King's Bench participated in the judicially assisted dispute resolution. Justice Champagne was the mediator for that process. When settlement negotiations occur, there's not a finding of liability. It's on a without prejudice basis. And so there would not be a finding of liability in relation to this matter.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so if there's no more questions, then Mr. Mayor has made the motion to receive the report, to concur with the public administration. So I'll call the question now on number 8. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good morning.
We'll move on now to the proposed amendments to the Winnipeg Committee for Safety Terms of Reference. All right, now, I think there's discussions on that. Councillor Santos?
Yes, I think what we like to do is refer this back to the Winnipeg Committee for Safety. There is some language and issues with the amendments that city clerks had flagged. So I would like the Winnipeg Committee for Safety to work with the city clerks on some of that language and bring it forward
Okay,
at
all
a later
right.
date.
Okay,
So I'm going to refer it back to the
Your
Winnipeg Committee for
motion?
Safety. Yeah, that's my
Okay,
motion.
all right, that's Councillor Santos's motion. Any comments, or I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. I only heard from actually Councillor Reedy. Councillor,
I said it.
you said it? Okay. Okay.
I'll be recorded in opposition.
No. Are you in opposition?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Councillor Duncan's in opposition. All right, so all in favor? Carried. All right, that's number 9. Number 10, Winnipeg Committee for Safety, the operating budget. They're making a motion to raise the annual budget.
Yeah, I'll move that, Madam Chair, to refer it to the 2026 budget.
Okay? Budget process?
Budget process.
Okay. Councillor Santos's motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Opposed?
Okay.
Recorded?
Okay, recorded, all right. All right, number 11 is the Human Rights Committee of Council Annual Report.
Yes, Madam Chair, I will move the annual report to be received as information.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item number 12 is the Annual Workforce Diversity Report. Do we have anyone to speak to this, or?
Yes, Madam Chair. Joining me today is Dave Clark, our Director of Human Resources, who's making his way over here now.
Okay. All right, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. So maybe you could just give us a high level on this, and if you've got questions.
Absolutely. All right. So annually, Human Resources, the Equity Office, Community Development prepare a workforce diversity report highlighting our equity group representation as well as some of the work that's been going on in the public service. So this is the 2024 Annual Workforce Diversity Report. We'll be preparing the 2025 early next year. In this, as we measure our 6 equity groups, the positive is that we saw increases in our representation in 5 of our 6 groups over 2024. And most excitingly to me is the increased utilization of our diversity dashboard that helps guide departmental leaders and managers in identifying where there's underrepresentation and focusing initiatives to increase representation. Our talent acquisition team is involved in quite a number of community sessions to draw individuals across the city of Winnipeg into employment with the city. And we've had success with 61 career fairs, 40 presentations in community, mass recruitment to remove barriers for individuals that might have some situations that they can't overcome. And ultimately, we've seen a positive increase in our numbers.
Okay, Councillor Eady?
So, I think it was noted down some numbers under identifying as a woman. My question is more specific to, I haven't been able to fully read this, but what kind of improvement have we seen in hiring persons with disabilities, which has traditionally been a very difficult area for this city of Winnipeg going back to my advocacy days in the 90s?
So at the end of 2024, our percent of the workforce that identified as a person with disability was 5.74, an increase of 0.35%. There is definitely a gap in terms of the labor force representation of what's available in the labor force to what we have representative within our workforce. For our employees identified through a self-declaration questionnaire, it's an optional form that they can submit this information and we use it to produce these metrics, but it also provides definitions, and that's one area where the definition has changed over time, where there's an opportunity to educate and inform individuals on what does this mean, persons with a disability, and then we can get some disaggregated data as well on what specifically those individuals are identifying as their disability. Again, anonymized, but it does give us some good aggregate data.
Yeah, so I was part of an initiative, you know, declaring, well, everybody knows Ross Eady's totally blind, so, but there are people who may be working for the city who are concerned about saying, well, I have this invisible disability, I am a person with a disability, but I'm not going to declare it. So I think that's probably part of some difficulty, but I think you would probably note, though, that persons with disabilities, they're of many different races, they're of different ethnicities, they are women, they are men, they are however they identify their gender. You would acknowledge that, eh? And I don't know if there's any way to measure how that's going within the hiring of persons with disabilities, but.
So we do track intersectionality, which is individuals that fall within 2 or more equity groups. I'd have to go back and talk to my diversity reports group on if I can dissect the information to that level of persons with disability with all the other intersectionalities, but we are recording that information, yes.
Okay, thank you.
If there's no more questions, I have a couple questions. So I guess what I'd like to understand is, and you have it in the report here, that women represent 26.32% of the workforce, a decrease from 2023. The gap from the labor force population is 21.45. A focused effort is essential to make progress towards the target. So what, like, can you speak to the focused effort, or?
So there's a number of different approaches that we're undertaking. So we've introduced EDI considerations into recruitments for underrepresented groups, and this goes from all levels of the organization. So we can do a standard recruitment approach for underrepresentation where points assigned they're given a bonus in terms of percent, or points assigned by percent. We can also recruit on a preferred basis. So if there's an underrepresented group, we can identify that position as being preferred for X equity group. Or we can do a designated position where we will only recruit this specific equity group for that position. So we have those three that we've now rolled out, and we've informed all of our department heads.
Like what's now, like recently or?
In 2025.
Okay.
Sorry. We also are undertaking the creation of an EDI and accessibility coordinator that's going to work with department heads to work through their numbers on the diversity dashboard and come up with solutions to target specific equity groups to raise those numbers up. Women being one specific where I've had department heads say that we're going to focus in on this equity group to ensure that we're drawing that number up over time. So the other aspect is about best practice sharing. We have Chief Bowers and Chief Schmidt who do great work on increasing representation in different equity groups and not working in silo or isolation, but sharing those best practices. What can we do to move that to transit, move that to public works?
And I believe it's underway. There's an audit on the recruitment and hiring process.
It will be starting this fall.
Oh, it hasn't started
No,
yet?
not.
Okay, all right. And what does that work out to in FTEs? Do you have any idea what the decrease is? Not really?
So interestingly enough, when you look at the numbers are individuals who identified
Right.
as a woman.
Right.
From 2023 to 2024, our number actually increased in women in the workplace. I believe it's on page 23 where we increased by 40 from 2023 to 2024.
So why does that show a decrease then?
So in part, it's about the voluntary nature of
Right.
identifying.
Okay, right.
And so if you get a disproportionate number identifying one way or the other, then a percent may go down, but our actuals go up.
Okay. And sorry, I know it was in the report and I saw it, but maybe you can refresh me. How many people identified as whatever? What percentage?
So at the end of 2024, our diversity dashboard, we had just over 60% who have identified
Oh,
through
wow.
the SDQ. And it's
Okay,
gone up.
so that's gone up.
Yeah.
Yes, all right. Any other questions from anyone? No? All right. So, okay, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Councillor Santos, do you want to make a motion here?
Sure, I'll move the Public Services recommendation.
Public Service recommendation or the Human Rights Committee?
Sorry, the Human Rights Committee of Council recommendation.
Okay, all right. Okay, motion's on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. All right. Now we are doing the subdivision and rezoning of 201 Leela. And number 14, I don't know, maybe we can do a few of these together if we've got any questions. Zoning agreement of DeRochier. 13, 14, 15 is text amendment to Schedule Y for mature communities. Councillor
Great,
Duncan?
yes, so I have community committee, sorry, we'll start at Leela here on 13, so that's a community committee recommendation. I would move that recommendation.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Number 14, also a community committee recommendation. Comfortable with moving that at this point in time?
That's good. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Number 15.
This is a standing committee recommendation that I'm also prepared to move.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Okay, disaster financial assistant program participation.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. My pleasure to move this motion to introduce it here today. This is in regards to the city participating in disaster financial assistance related to wildfires in particular.
So I just have a quick question here, I guess. So we have to submit our costs? Is this the intent?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. On what will be eligible. All right. Okay. Councillor Barati has a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Number 17 is the Green Municipal Fund application endorsement from the City of Winnipeg for the YMYWCA.
Thank you. Again, the Downtown Y is doing all sorts of wonderful things. My pleasure to move this endorsement letter.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. All right. Now we will move on to the expansion of on-request night service beginning in
Oh,
December
no,
2020.
Audit Committee.
Pardon me?
Audit Committee,
Oh, right,
Affordable
this one
Housing
here?
Initiative.
Yeah, we're on Audit Committee.
I'd like to hear from the public service at all
Got it.
possible, Madam Chair.
Okay. Okay. How did I miss that? Oh. Got it. Got it. Okay. All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So we have the Affordable Housing Initiative's Rapid Housing Initiative Audit on the docket right now. If you'd like to maybe just give us a brief overview.
Okay, so we conducted 2 audits. They were a little different than we normally do. We usually conduct audits after something's happened. This was in progress. So doing ones that are in progress, we obviously expect to find some things along the way. These programs were both new to the city on that side. What we found in general, and that there was an improvement along the way as they actually matured on that side. The rapid housing was done first. The processes were a little less formal, and then they got more formal towards the end. And half leveraged off of some of the information there, I think also for us being in there and going forward. So right now, as a success side of it, they're building, as both Lizzie and Emma told you, they're building. They're getting houses built, affordable houses built, and they're complying with CMHC standards and that. The reporting to you guys is there. We did identify some areas for improvement, like more enhancement in some of the documentation along the way, and some better communication of risks and risk management on that side. But in general, that's what we found.
Okay. Any questions or comments? No, I think this was good that we did this. Oh, the mayor does. I'll let you speak first, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the report, Mr. Auditor. I'm wondering, would it be fair to say that, other cities and other municipalities, probably in other provinces, actually have a requirement? They have housing departments that they run and have run for decades. The previous federal government, in essence, bypassed provinces and established these funds, the Rapid Housing Initiative and the Housing Accelerator, and told cities really that we, across Canada, we as cities, we're going to administer these funds and we're going to administer this program. So my question would it be fair to say that maybe part of the early days, we were as a city just kind of getting our feet under us because we were reestablishing or establishing, in essence, departments, or not a department, pardon me, the staff and the personnel to run funds, to run this program where we had never done that before or hadn't done it in decades. So would it be fair to say it was kind of some of the early maybe growth and instability was just because this was new to us?
That's exactly what we found. That was definitely one of the factors. I mean, it was said a few times, it's like building a plane as it's flying. So yeah, there's a lot of things that they are adjusting. And the really good news is they were adjusting even as we were in the audit, which was the best. That's a good news scenario when you're actually making those changes as we find them. So.
Thank you.
I think that's a really good point the mayor made, because we didn't have any of this before the federal government unveiled this program. So excellent. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Eggett. That's good work to work with the department or division or whatever it's called to work with them hand in hand on this and refine processes with your expertise. No other questions or comments on item number 1. I mean, the same, I guess, goes for item number 2. Do you want to?
So that was both, like item number 2 was the half, like
Yeah.
we actually split the 2 out because they were actually, once we got into them, they're very different programs on that side. And as you guys probably already know, the half is divided into 8 different projects. The focus is more on getting the development permit, and it's an accelerator, like it's to get the start of funding to attract more funding, whereas the RHA was actually delivering those projects and that. So slightly different risks to the city on that side. Saw the same thing when we went into half. Actually, a lot of those processes were in place. A charter was in place. Still, and then they were going forward on like a lot of the work that they were doing. Again, Just like RHI, though, there are some areas where better documentation could be in place, better risk management. Is it something we expected going in with those same factors? Really rapid, really accelerated time frame to do this in, very new program to the city, even though RHI didn't go too far on the heels of RHI. So it's in line with what we kind of expected along with that.
Okay, good work. So now, I guess, item number 1, could we have a motion to receive it as information? Councillor Duncan, you want to make that motion?
Yeah, I can move both the
1 and
reports of the
2?
audit committee, 1 and 2, to be received as information.
Perfect. All right, all in favor? Aye. Carried. Now, I've had a request for a 10-minute bio break.
Please.
5 minutes, actually.
5 minutes,
Yeah,
okay,
that's really
5-minute
quick.
bio break. So there we go. All right. Okay. Welcome back to the Executive Policy Committee regular meeting on October 21st. All right, now we're going to continue with the report of the Standing Policy Committee on Community Services dated October 6th. We have 4 reports.
Yes.
All
Madam
right.
Chair, I'll move consent agenda item on the report of the Standing Policy Committee on Community Services dated October 6, 2025, items 1 through 4.
1 through 4. All right. Does anyone want to pull any of these reports and speak to any of them? I think they've been spoken to very intensively at the committee level. Mr. Mayor doesn't? All right. Okay, so I will call the question on items 1 through 4. All in favor? Aye. Carried. All right. Now, Councillor Berardi, would you like to take the chair for the Public Works Committee? All right. So we've got 3 reports on the agenda. Item number 1 is ride share loading zones. All right, I would like to refer this report back to the Public Works Committee. I think more work had to be done on that with our partners. And we originally in the Public Works Committee asked it to be included with the parking strategy. We don't want it to be included in the parking strategy.
Okay.
So we want to move it back to Public Works to have some dialogue about it and discuss it at our November meeting.
Okay, so the motion is to refer it back to SBC Public Works.
Correct.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Okay, all right, Mr. Mayor, you don't have a question, you're supporting it, okay? I'm not the chair anymore. Okay, report number 2 is Route 90 improvements. I just want to remind people, I guess this is more of a reminder, that this report is recommending $5 million to begin property acquisitions, to refer it to the 2026 budget process. That's really the essence of this report. And with that, I will move the Public Services recommendations.
Okay, Councillor Edie.
I wanted to make a comment on this report.
Yep.
So the report is calling on us to have money available for expropriation for a future project, which involves the bridges, the widening, and so on. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. It's very similar to, we've moved the Arlington Bridge forward by putting aside enough money to remove it, but as well, there's continued detailed design happening. And so this here is just preparing us for one of the major projects within the city of Winnipeg that we're having to deal with over the next 4, 5, 6 years. Well, to 2032, because you can't forget Nupik, right? So, anyways, I just wanted to make that comment that this is moving forward. Money, the bridges need to be replaced. Widening looks like it needs to happen. And yeah, so I'm going to be supporting this report.
Thank you, Councillor Edie. Sorry, did you, Councillor?
Is there anything that the public service can add to this? I mean, this is a major project. It's half of it's in my ward, half of it's in Orlico's.
Did you want them to come up, or?
If they can add anything to, what the public can expect potentially around the next steps and what the 5 million is going to be used towards, that'd be helpful.
Part of it's in the St. James ward as well, just to remind you.
Okay. I see the mayor also has a question or comment. I'll go to him right next.
So my team, Jim Berezowski, Director of Public Works, is here to answer that question. Jim, I know you were walking over, so I'm not sure if you heard the question, so...
For clarity, Councillor, through the chair, you were seeking on the 5 million for the expropriation, what the plans are?
Yeah, just so the public can be aware of what this means. Some people are confused on this going ahead as, construction's going to start imminently, and others, don't understand what the 5 million is for. So any clarity that can be given in layman's terms for the public to understand.
Sure, yeah, the $5 million being suggested for next year, the intent of that funding is to initiate property acquisitions, kind of target more the low-hanging fruit, any properties that come up on the open market, so that we can reduce the costs and exposure to the risk of expropriation on those projects. It's not the full amount of funding that we require for property acquisition, but it allows us to commence the process with subsequent negotiations and expropriations following that in subsequent years when additional budget becomes available.
Okay. Mayor Gillingham? Mayor Gillingham?
Thank you very much. I don't have any questions per se for our staff. So if there's more questions, I'll let others ask the questions before I make comments.
I think we're probably done here with comments. So go ahead. Questions, comments? Nobody else? No? No?
No?
Thank you. Just to put on the record again, I think that it's important to, people often refer to this as, the entire cost of, that it's about widening Kenaston Boulevard. As of course, we know that that's just one component of many projects within this whole envelope of a budget. What we're trying to avoid, among other things, is an Arlington Bridge scenario where the money is not put in and the investment's not made, and then we end up, having to kind of shut a bridge down. That would be catastrophic to do that to the St. James bridges. It's challenging enough, problematic enough that we've had to do that to Arlington. But given that this is the major trade route in all the city of Winnipeg, given that close to 80,000 vehicles go over those bridges, transporting goods, moving goods and people to and from work and school, whatever the case would be, every day, makes it the busiest route in the city. And so we have to be thinking ahead. I appreciate the council is thinking ahead. And this is a situation where with the infill project that's going on that is now Odin and Canada Lands, with the need to do the CSO work, with the need to upgrade and widen the road, and certainly with the need to replace the Arlington Bridge. Councillor Reid, you'll be glad I said that. But the need to replace the St. James bridges, this project is not a nice to have, it's a need to have. And so I'm certainly supportive of the next steps, the $5 million into the 2026 budget to enable us to do some work on acquiring the lands required and the properties required. But it's also important to keep in mind, I think, as well, that this is not a local project. I do appreciate, there's local impact on those who live in Tuxedo area or the River Heights area, and some is in the St. James area. But this is much broader. This is a citywide project. And if we had to, go to the place where we're just reducing that stretch of roadway to a single lane in either direction for up to 2 years per bridge for a total of 4 years, the traffic chaos would be really unlike anything we've seen, I think, this city has ever seen. So this is one of those situations, colleagues, where, as I say from time to time, there are times when we have to ask ourselves, what decision do Winnipeggers 20 years from now need us to make today? Then let's make that decision. We need to think bold. We need to think future focused. We really need to make this investment. And I have asked the federal and provincial governments to look at this project, that there's a critical need for this project. And this is really tied to Winnipeg's economy, not just in the present, but in the future as well. And the growth and the development and the strength of Winnipeg's economy very much depends upon this asset, which is Keniston Route 90.
Okay. Thank you very much. The motion is on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Report 3.
Okay, report 3 is the expansion of on-request night service beginning in December 2025. So as everyone knows, we changed our transit network to higher frequency. We've made a lot of changes. Within the funding envelope, we all agreed within the existing funding envelope. So what all of us have heard, I think, very loud and clear, is we need longer hours. So I want to thank the department who's worked long and hard to figure out how we could extend the hours and what the costs would be and what the staffing would be that's required. Now, we are changing the on-request zones that are going to become effective December 14th, and that will be reflected in some of the financing here for a couple weeks for December 2025. And they've put also December or 2026 that will change also the evening hours. So we've got the funding in front of us. Now I'm updating the recommendation number 4 in here, and you all have a copy. I'll get Madam Clerk to read it into the record shortly. But we heard loud and clear that people wanted the hours extended further into the evening, into night service. I want to thank the department for figuring out how to do that in a really timely manner. And this report's in front of us now with the costing involved. Madam Clerk, if you could read into the record what the changes are, the amendment is.
Delete recommendation 4 in its entirety and replace with the following. New recommendation 4, that the 2025 financial impact of $85,765, including 4.7 FTEs, to be funded by Transit's retained earnings. And a new recommendation 5, that the 2026 financial impact of $476,473 be included in Transit's 2026 operating budget to be funded by Transit's retained earnings. And then we'll renumber the proper officers clause to number 6.
And if we've got questions, Transit's here. Would you like to hear any update or feedback from Transit on this? I don't know if anyone wants to. I know they're here.
Sure.
Councillor Duncan, sure. So if we could have Transit folks come here, that would be great.
Madam Chair, with me today is Greg Owanko, Director of Transit, and Bjorn Radstrom.
Good morning.
Okay. So maybe just elaborate a bit on we understand that the 85,765 is for basically 2 weeks after the after the schedule changes in 2025. Explain to us in 2026, we've got 476,473. Now that's just till April, correct?
Correct.
So just maybe elaborate on that.
Yeah,
What happens after April?
what happens after April? We were also asked at the Standing Policy Committee meeting in September to develop the plan for extending late night service throughout the city, not just on request. So that report is coming forward in November. Because it involves extending service on fixed routes, it took more time to develop that, to develop the schedules and whatnot. So that's coming forward. That'll go to SPC and then hopefully refer to EPC and council. And that contains the plan for extending late night service in on-request zones and on fixed routes beginning in April. This plan is what we can do much more quickly. And so the funding is only to get us from when our winter service goes into effect on December 14th until mid-April when the spring service goes into effect. After that, the rest of the plan, the one that's coming forward in November, would take over, and the budget implications of that will be in that report brought forward in November.
Okay, so that report's coming forward in November. That will
Correct.
talk about the fixed route evening extension
Right.
And the continuation of the
and the
on-request service.
continuation of the on-request. Okay. Any questions?
Yes.
Councillor Duncan?
Thank you very
Or the
much.
Chair, sorry.
Sorry. Thank you, Councillor Browati. Well, first off, I just want to state thank you very much to the department for your constant open lines of communication. Folks that are claiming that that does not exist, that's garbage. Anytime I reach out, I get a prompt response. I might not get the answer I want, a yes that I'm looking for, but I still get a response regardless, so thank you for that. I guess my question just around, and obviously this is doing our best to try to limit the impact to the budget and to the retained earnings as possible. Why 2 a.m. and when will we know who's riding the buses, where, and how many are riding the buses, so that we can look to modify schedules? I know I'm not trying to get too far off the on-request night service, but I have seen the larger articulated buses driving around, not a lot of folks on them. So 2 questions, why the 2 a.m.? And B, when will we look at trimming down some of these to meet the demands of other areas?
The reason for 2 a.m. is because the fixed route service that now operates late, primarily on the primary network lines, the blue line, the FX lines, the F lines, and most of the D lines, they'll get people away from the major destinations. They'll pick them up at the major destinations and take them to their neighborhoods until generally about 1:15, 1:30 in the morning. That's when the later departures from downtown and other major centers are. The gap right now is that once somebody gets near their neighborhood on a major street, they can't go the last couple of miles to get home. By extending on-request service until 2 a.m., they can now transfer to on-request service and get the rest of the way home. So it allows that last transfer.
And on the review of when we might look at matching the needs for service with the time of service?
We're always looking at that. As everybody knows, we've been having issues with the GPS problems on our buses, and those units are tied into the automatic passenger counters. So in some sense, we're flying a little blind right now in terms of ridership data because we don't have good boarding data because of those GPS problems. We're hoping that that's going to be fixed within the next few weeks. So in early November, we should start to collect solid data, but we need several months before we can really see what's happening. What we've been doing up until now is taking a look at things like reports of pass-ups and high passenger loads, and those are reported in a different way. And we've been able to use those to see where we have not enough service. But you're right, taking a look where we have too much service, that's something that's going to have to wait until next year once we have several months of data from our restored automatic passenger counting system once it's working again.
And last question, if I may. Okay, so when we do have that data, we're not necessarily just going to stick to our guns at, the feeder routes, or sorry, the main lines run until 2 or 1:30 or whatever it is, so we have to have the on-demand. Will we actually look at the number of riders to see, like, I'm just using my area as an example, I'm not making my argument off this, but I do see some of these buses sitting there waiting for an on-demand call, which may or may not come. I don't watch them all day, but I drive by them. And then I also do see these major network buses that they might be packed, just like school zones at certain times, but otherwise they're fairly unutilized.
Yeah, we'll be looking at that. And in some areas, people often comment on seeing buses running empty, but it's at the end of the line. And in those cases, the reason the bus is still operating there, but it's empty, is because it just has to get to a place where it can turn around and start heading back the other way. And then once it's a little bit farther away from the end of the line, it does carry more people. But we take a look at what's called load profiles, and we can see how the loads are along the route at different times of the day, and then use that to scale service up or down depending on what we see. And with the on-request service, it's a question of how many buses are allocated to each zone, because with on-request, you can allocate 1, 2, or 3 buses, and if we find that we've got 2 or 3 buses serving 1 or 2 zones and that's too much, we can pare that back, but still offer enough service that it's useful.
Sorry, I lied. Last question. Would we ever look at these on-request zones as not using the full bus and maybe go to other smaller, I don't want to say vans, but something similar to the handy transit is not the word for it anymore, but those types of...
The answer is yes. It's a bit of a complicated answer,
Sure.
so bear with me. Right now, there aren't really smaller buses available that are heavy-duty buses. So we have some of the older ones in our fleet. You still see them operating, but they're 20 years old or more, and these are the 30-foot heavy-duty buses. They just look like a shorter version of the regular buses. We want to buy more buses like that. They just aren't available, and we've been working with manufacturers to see what's available, and we're hoping something is going to become available soon. Once we have that, then we definitely want to buy those. The reason that we specifically want heavy-duty buses is because if we buy smaller vehicles that are medium-duty, which are available, we can't use those in regular service because just with the number of people that use them and how many hours we use them for, they fall apart within a few years in that heavy service. So really, we need these heavy-duty buses, and as soon as they're available, we definitely want to buy some. But if we just went out and bought a bunch of vehicles like Transit Plus uses, we would have to dedicate them only to on-request service, and then that's an expensive proposition because then they're not running for the rest of the day. We want to have buses that are available to use any time of the day, anywhere we need them, and that really is heavy-duty buses. So once those become available, hopefully next year or the year after, then we're going to look at that as part of our procurement program.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bjorn. Have you explored at all using like Transit Plus type providers that have a separate fleet of vehicles and lighter, van or minibus vehicles to provide transit on request service?
Maybe I'll let you field that one, Greg. There's a few labor relations issues.
Have you considered using other providers to provide on request service rather than having massive buses going down small residential streets, instead providing like minibuses or vans outside of Transit's own fleet and having the service perhaps operated by other providers?
No, we've not considered that.
Or even like Uber or whatever,
No, we haven't.
Just because I'm guessing it's fairly costly to have huge buses with 2, 3, 4 passengers tops at a time.
Yeah, we haven't gone through an exercise like that.
No. Okay. I just want to say thank you again for your creativity and getting on request ramped up quite quickly. I know there's been some gaps we found with those evening services, and we're going to do more I guess in the new year to address that as well. So okay.
And I just want to add too, I want to thank you very much. It's any big change like this is challenging, and I'm sort of on the front end taking a lot of interesting comments and feedback, and so are you. And I just appreciate all the work that you're doing because it's a matrix, and I don't think maybe we're not doing a good enough job explaining how complicated it is to change routes and systems, and that's on us, and we'll continue to try and explain that. But thanks for all your effort, because it's a big undertaking. Hang in there.
Well, thank you. We would like to be able to move quicker, but
Yeah.
we appreciate everyone's patience
Yeah.
as we all work through this, so we appreciate the support as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lukes has the motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I'll hand the chair back to you.
Okay, all right. Now we're going to speak to the reports of the Standing Policy Committee on Property and Development dated October 9th. And here we go. So, item number 1, I guess, I don't know if there's any public service here from PP&D. Any public service from PP&D?
I can move the agenda, however, I understand that there was some interest in item number 11,
Okay,
if you still are.
I'd like to pull it, actually.
Oh, okay.
okay. Okay, so what are you doing? Are you moving
I'll move
all?
consent agenda with the exception of item number 11, 1 through 10 and 12.
And you're pulling 11. Okay, so I'll call the question on.
Can I,
Sorry?
sorry, Madam Chair,
Yes?
that's good. I support that. Can I just make a comment that I think this number 1 is excellent and well needed, but with that, I'm ready to vote on 1 through 10 and 12.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I'll call the question on 1 through 12 with polling number 11. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Number 11.
Yeah, if we could just hear from the public service on this. Councillor Eady and yourself there had asked questions. I just would like clarification on the difference between the public service original recommendation and the amendment to the to the community committee recommendation.
Yep, it's a 45-unit development on St. Anne's Road. And so the main issue with the change between community committee and EPC is the addition of additional parking stalls. The developer sought to vary the application to reduce parking from 38 stalls, which were required, down to 32. The community committee reverted back to the zoning requirement, which was 38, and added one additional car share. So the public service was supportive of the variance for the 32 stalls and one car share. We have to balance what goes on our major corridors here. So the addition of 45 units with no additional servicing required is what the department wants to see in the city. As well, increasing parking has the potential to put more hardscaping on the surface, which can then also have servicing issues for land drainage. So there's a balance here that we want to see of increased density without increased services. We're mindful of the fact that additional parking potentially is a benefit to the community. As we understand, there's maybe a strain in this area for on-street parking. However, the applicant is proposing additional bicycle storage. It is on a transit route, and the one car share that they initially wanted to see has the potential to save up to 12 parking stalls. So that was the reason why the public service supported the variance as it was, because of the additional amenities that the developer was providing on site.
So for clarification, do we have a F bus running along there too, on St. Anne's Road?
Sorry, I cannot identify which bus route that is.
There is a bus route there though, right?
It's St. Anne's, there's a bus route.
I think it's a frequent bus, isn't it?
It would be, yeah.
Yeah. So to be clear, so it's coming to us with a requirement for 38 stalls?
That was the community committee recommendation, was to increase it to 38. The developer sought 32 stalls and one car share.
And the public service supports the 32 and one car share?
Correct.
Okay, which makes sense. We've done that at many other places with this car share thing, so, okay. So it's here with 38, not 32 and a car share?
It's here with 38 and two car shares, as opposed to 32 and one car share.
Right. Two car, 38 and two car share?
Correct.
Doesn't kind of fit in with the overall housing accelerator fund concepts and stuff like that to me. So in order, the variance requested, which you believe is okay, what would it require me to do in order to set it back to that variance request?
Just revert back to the original public service recommendation, community committee.
Community committee voted to allow the variance, right?
The variance, yeah, correct. The variance would then need to be, it did not include the parking any longer. Look to the clerk here, because
The variance isn't in front of the committee, so all that you can consider today is a recommendation on the DAS ed. The community committee has already made a decision on the variance.
Right, so my question then is, aside from the fact that the public service supported the variance originally, was there anything else that was changed that was not recommended by the public service?
the only two additions were related to parking.
Okay, thank you.
Question?
Oh, no, I'm not chair anymore. Sorry.
Okay, questions around the parking? Just a follow-up question on the parking.
Councillor Santos?
I'm just looking through the report again. What's the ratio, unit to parking ratio?
It's 1-to-1
Okay,
within
and what did the
urban-
public service recommended, the ratio?
What was?
What was the public services recommended for the ratio?
The requirement's 38, but we supported 32.
Okay, okay, so the developer wanted 32.
Correct.
Okay, could you explain why the developer wanted 32?
It's just the balance between what you can fit on site and what the density you're trying to achieve. So
Okay.
it's somewhat of a modest reduction in the requirement in order to achieve the density of 45 units.
Okay, and then what I guess community committee had done is they had increased the number of parking stalls, right? For that
Reverting
one-
back to what was required in the zoning bylaw.
Okay, and then at any point in time, was there discussions at community committee about like the risks of doing that, of bringing that ratio to 1-to-1? Would that modify the building? Because usually when you have more parking stalls, it adjusts the building and it changes the program and the scope and all that financial stuff. Was there any kind of comments on that during the meeting?
That would be the impact. I wasn't at the meeting, and then
Okay.
just looking at the comments on record, that it wasn't, I think that the change to the parking requirement was in relation to community, the community opposition, and potentially of how the
okay.
streets are used. But yes, adding 6 parking stalls would have some effect on how the building is laid out and how that would be accommodated.
Is there not parking on St. Anne's in the front?
Some, but not a lot.
Probably time restricted. I think it'd be more the local streets that'd be impacted.
Okay. And they were offering one ride share.
Correct.
Is that included in the?
No.
No, so that's an extra. So instead of, so it was, sorry, what was the number, 30?
32 is what was sought, and.
And then one ride share, so it would make it 33. 33 stalls.
Yeah, so plus there's 2 accessible stalls as well.
Okay.
So I guess the motion is to revert back to the public services recommendation? Is that what your motion is, Councillor Ady?
That would be my motion, is to revert back to the recommendation of the public
public
service on, what is the
DSCZ 1225.
yeah.
Okay, so that's Councillor Eady's recommendation. On the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. All right, moving right along now to the report on the Standing Policy Committee on Water, Waste, and Environment, dated October 10th.
Oh, long agenda, Madam Chairperson.
Long agenda.
The one report, I'll just speak to it, and I believe we're just, it's received as, I can't remember how it was received by community committee, but whatever we recommended, I was in support of, I believe. But just, there is, like, the difference between horizontal underground work versus vertical work when it's related to processing sewage and dealing with land drainage and stuff, that's not an appropriate, like, what did we learn from CSO that we could transfer over to the North End Water Pollution Control Center? Well, not much. I mean, we way overestimated the budget required for combined sewer separation and other methods of reducing raw sewage from going into our rivers. The better comparison would have been, what did we learn? Because we, at the South plant, we did bring in biological removal of nutrients and other upgrades that were required there, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned there, because it didn't really work out the way we as council thought it would and voted to do. And so I just want to leave it at that.
You don't want to change it, you want to leave it
I believe the recommendation was
to, on lessons from the combined sewer overflow work that can be applied to the North End sewage treatment plant.
yeah, that was the request, and we had a great dialogue about it.
Right.
It actually opened up a good conversation about what the budget and who's funding what related to NUPIC, and which continued on at the Finance Committee with Councillor Brody, so Chairperson Brody. So anyway, I just wanted to say, I believe we're just, this had to go back to council. It comes from council. So we received the report, and
Okay.
I'm moving the recommendation from
All
the
right, Standing committee recommendation. Okay, Councillor Eady's moving the standing committee recommendation. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Now, we're moving to the report of the Standing Policy Committee on Finance and Economic Development dated October 14th.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move Report 1.
Okay, Report 1, the Entertainment Funding Tax Annual Report. All in favor? Carried. Now, we're moving on to the addendum, the report of the Governance Committee of Council dated October 16th. And I think that, who's going to move that? Councillor Barati?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to introduce the report and move consent agenda items 1 and 2.
Items 1 and 2, the council committee schedule of meetings and the establishment of an audit committee and citizen member appointment process. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. All right, Councillor Santos, do you want to move consent agenda and adjournment?
Yeah, I'll move consent agenda and adjournment.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. All right, that wraps up our meeting for today.